Who is or who are the first Filipino migrants in Canada? But before that, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell button so you'll be updated on my future uploads. Now back to our video. Filipino migration to Canada dates back to the early 20th century, when a small number of Filipino seafarers and migrant workers arrived in the country. Many of these individuals came to Canada via United States, where they worked in various industries such as agriculture, fishing, and mining. One of the earliest recorded Filipino migrants to Canada was Cipriano Enriquez, who arrived in Victoria, British Columbia in 1913. Enriquez worked as a farm laborer and a lumberjack, and he later became a Canadian citizen. In 1953, he was recognized as the first recorded Filipino immigrant in British Columbia. Another early Filipino migrant to Canada was Chris Sakibal, who arrived in Vancouver in 1906 as a member of a Filipino crew on a ship bound for Alaska. Sakibal later settled in Vancouver and worked as a cook in the logging and mining industries. But not until 2011, a Filipino-Canadian in Vancouver, BC, was digging through the archives when he learned the story of Benjamin Flores, better known as Ben or Benson, after his name turned up as someone who had lived in Canada back in the 1860s. The unmarked resting place of Ben Flores, who died in 1929, can be found in the cemetery of Vancouver, BC. His grave was discovered following an investigation by Joseph Lopez, a radio host and journalist in Vancouver, who is convinced that Ben Flores was Canada's first Filipino immigrant according to records. Despite the contributions of early Filipino migrants, they were often subjected to discrimination and racism in Canada. It wasn't until the 1950s and 1960s that Filipino migration to Canada increased significantly. In 1955, the Canadian government established a special program to recruit nurses from the Philippines to address a shortage of medical professionals in the country. This program continued until 1965 and resulted in the arrival of thousands of Filipino nurses in Canada. In the 1960s and 1970s, Canada also welcomed a significant number of skilled workers and professionals from the Philippines, including engineers, teachers, and IT professionals. Many of these individuals were attracted by Canada's strong economy and social programs. Today, Filipinos are one of the largest immigrant groups in Canada, with over 800,000 people of Filipino descent living in the country. The contributions of Filipino migrants to Canada's economy, culture, and society are celebrated and recognized, and their history is an important part of Canadian history. And that's me when I arrived in Canada last September 2019. Well, anyways, that's it for our video today. Thank you for watching.